seconds, another person becomes a victim of human trafficking. Every 2 minutes, another child is forced into sex trafficking.
So good morning, good morning, good morning. Is it really a good morning? Well, for you maybe, but for other people who are being abused every day, their answers might not be the same. All over the world, there have been many issues regarding human trafficking. Human trafficking, as defined as from the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, is an organized criminal activity in which human beings are being treated as possession to be controlled and to be exploited. There are some different forms of human trafficking, some of which may be forced labor, sex trafficking, child trafficking, and many other forms. One of the most evident forms of human trafficking is sex trafficking, or also known as prostitution. Women are being tricked into joining an organization, not knowing that they are being forced to join an industry related of prostitution. Another evident type of human trafficking in the Philippines is forced labor. There are two types: forced labor in general and child labor. So now that we have a little bit knowledge about what human trafficking is all about, let us proceed to our first speaker, Kit Kat, to tell us more about the causes of human trafficking.
Although the root causes of trafficking vary and often differ from one country to another, there are, however, many factors that are common to trafficking. Each story behind every trafficked child is unique, but here are the most common causes as to why children are trafficked. The first cause is poverty. In fact, it is the main cause. Parents who are in extreme poverty end up giving their children to traffickers in order to make money. Poverty also causes increase in street children who are the ideal victims of child trafficking. The second cause is lack of education. More often than not, lack of education leads to poverty. Parents that give up their children to traffickers lack guidance. There are not enough values that have been taught to them or have been practiced for them to instill in their children. The third is absence of registration. Children that are most threatened are those who were registered in their birth, and because of that, they are not entitled to be given the right to identity. Thus, absence of registration increases the vulnerability to trafficking. Insufficient legislation. Traffickers are more confident in trafficking children because the law seems to be too loose or not strictly implemented. Criminal provisions against child trafficking should be enforced more so that these traffickers would have to think twice before committing to such action. Dishonest adoption. One way in trafficking children is through couples that are faking in adopting the child. They could pretend that they would want to adopt a child, but in fact, they have an agenda, and that is to sell these innocent children and profit from them. The sixth cause is lack of awareness. Since the target is the children, then they should be aware of this crime. And it would be better if they knew their rights as well. Parents should also be informed so that they will be more alert in being responsible with their children. Effortless income. Most have a hard time in getting into jobs that would sustain their families. Thus, most of them result in trafficking instead. When we think about it, in trafficking business, there's not need credentials for you to enter, but then you just have to follow rules. Lastly, disintegration of family. Families are not tight enough that they do not look after each other. They do not show concern as how families should. If they love their children enough, they would become alert on their children children's safety, and whereabouts. So, based on all these causes of child trafficking that were mentioned, they are influenced by the social issue, which is poverty. Therefore, it would really help in limiting the spread if poverty was to be resolved.
Thank you, Kit Kat. Let us now focus our attention to a short skit prepared by the group about real-life stories of two women who experienced human trafficking in the Philippines.
My only dream was to go to school. We didn't have any money, so I was forced to put my schooling on hold. But a relative of mine asked me if I wanted to work as a nanny to a 6-month-old baby with a monthly salary of 3,000 pesos. I couldn't say no. Little did I know, I was initiated to a group of girls to work for cyber sex. Thinking of my studies, I freely did anything that my clients asked me to do, from modeling naked to doing a lesbian show. Because the rule was, keep the clients happy or there would be no income. I was 13 back then.
Dad would beat me up and my other siblings whenever we made mistakes, while my mom would tell us all the time. I was part of a group among 6 females, 4 of which were underage females. We were trafficked for sexual exploitation. I couldn't take the beatings anymore, so I left home and stayed at a friend's house. Several days later, 2 more joined us, one of which was a relative of our recruiter. We boarded a bus to Batangas City, and we were told that we would work in Batangas City. But when we arrived in the port, our recruiter bought tickets that were bound to Puerto Galera. We found out that we were to be sold off as bar waitresses in a disco bar.
After hearing the sides of the victims, let us now look at the perspectives of the traffickers.
So, boss, I'm kind of new here. What do we really do here? What do we work?
You just get a chance to get children from streets and force them to traffic.
So our target victims are children. So, how do we make them work?
We force them into doing such acts like sexual trafficking, child labor, begging for alms, working for stuff they shouldn't really work for.
So, what do you have to look out for when this kind of business?
You really have to look up for the police because they're always on the lookout.
What would happen if you get caught?
You might get jailed for more than death or you will pay fine what you will imagine that all of her earnings going to the
So, what do we do now?
I'm gonna show you how.
Continuing with what Kit Kat had said a while ago, Kazu will share to us how the government and other foundations protect and prevent an increase of number of victims.
One of the best ways to stop child trafficking is through prevention. Prevention is better than cure, right? Though we may not be able to cure this notorious activity, we can prevent it from happening. It comes with no surprise that prevention ultimately begins in one's own government. Government focusing on demand. The demand for cheap goods, services, labor, and sex opens opportunities for the exploitations of economic reality is that human trafficking is driven by profits. If nobody paid for sex, sex trafficking would not exist. If nobody purchased goods produced with any amount of forced labor, manufacturing would be non-existent. Governments can go a long way toward tackling demand. They can, for example, require that government contractors and subcontractors ensure that employees are not hired or recruited through dishonest means or the use of excessive fees. These policies would increase the transparency and make it more difficult for dishonored laborers to use debt bondage as a means for providing cheap labor. Although prohibiting trafficking in all government contracts is an important first step, without appropriate follow-up, these new policies would be meaningless. Governments must provide resources for training, technical assistance, and auditing to ensure that trafficking is fully eradicated from their supply chains. While the government plays an important role in curbing the instances of child trafficking, there exist organizations that aim to protect trafficked women, children, and men here in our country. The first foundation is Visayan Forum. Lori and Andrea role-played as two trafficked victims who are now under the care of this foundation, that is found in 20 provinces in the Philippines. Their vision is to see a world where vulnerable migrants are free, protected, and empowered. Visayan Forum works with partners to innovate sustainable solutions to end human trafficking and other modern-day forms of slavery by building social movements to address the root cause of modern-day slavery, engaging with governments to improve public policy, and promoting international solidarity. The next is UNICEF, or United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, an agency of the United Nations devoted to serving the world's children through programs that help them to survive and flourish. In the Philippines, UNICEF aims to provide the best quality of life for every Filipino child. The last foundation is Love 146. It is an international human rights organization working to end child trafficking and exploitation through survivor care, prevention education, professional training, and empowering movement. They believe in the power of love and its ability to affect sustainable change. Love is the foundation of this organization's motivation. Their vision is to abolish child trafficking and the exploitation, nothing less. In the Philippines, Love 146 rescues trafficked children and facilitates their rehabilitation. After they are given therapy, they are then nurtured to accept society once more. These are just some of the foundations that fight human trafficking here in the Philippines.
Proceeding to our next speaker, Jamela, she will share to us about solutions for this issue to make our night